Today is 12th of August, and we're going to study ST 46.5, Chapter 5 of Sutta Discovery 46, Attaka Alang Sutta. Alang means sufficient enough. In this sutta, it means sufficiently capable in terms of qualities of a Dharma teacher. And I think there are other suttas also called alang, so to kind of make this sutta unique, we have prefixed it with attaka, the eights, octets. After 16 years of translating, it's easier to see kind of principles, a way of naming the suttas, giving them kind of unique names. Of course, traditionally the names can be found at the end of the chapter, which is called Udana. Udana, or in scholarly English, we call them the colloquium or something. I forget the exact word. Okay, so it's all listed there in the verse summary, Udana. Whereas we can also name them. The principle I follow is to name them, in the case of Anguttara, after the book. In other words, the chapter, Nipata. So they are very fixed, there are 11 of them. So you have Ekaka, Eka means one, Ekaka means the ones, or the units. And then you have the Dukkha, D-U-K-A, Dukkha meaning the twos, or the dyads, or the duets. And then you have the Tika, the triads. And then the Chatuka, Panchaka, Chaka, Sataka, Ataka, Navaka, Dasaka, and Eka Dasaka. So from there you can know that where it is located. Of course, we assume that there's only one sutta in that book or that chapter. If there's more than one with the same title, there are other ways we can name them. And sometimes one sutta has got more than one name, so all this will be mentioned in the top right-hand corner of the first page of the translation. For example, the Burmese will have their own translation, the own name, the Sinhalese their own, the Thai their own, sometimes happens too. For example, the Sinhalese called the sutta Sigalovada Sutta, whereas in Burma it's called Singalaka Sutta. So you have slightly different names. In Myanmar, very often there is what's called labialization of the syllables. The V becomes B. So, for example, Vyapada become Vyapada. It's easier to pronounce with a B. So, but I think the usual word letter would be a V, but apparently it's more difficult to pronounce. Vyapada is like you got to make an effort to twirl your tongue a bit. So these are minor idiosyncrasies in the different texts, in the different cultures. It makes kind of interesting reading. It also helps you to identify which tradition the text comes from. After 16 years of translating sutta, I call it a practice because it's fun. You begin to discover more and more interesting ways in which the Buddha taught the Dharma. And even in the repetitive style of the sutta, you find there's something interesting there. And you see how they're interconnected, and you see how the monks make an effort to arrange the sutta teaching in such a way that almost every conceivable aspect of the teaching is covered. Almost computerized, you might say that. So they have this amazing mind that's able to just look at this and say, okay, how can we permutate this? How can we give this series of permutations, combinations, numbers that will cover every aspect of the Four Noble Truths, for example? And interestingly, the last chapter of the Samyutta is about the Four Noble Truths. So volume 53b covers much of that chapter. So you have, for example, in chapter 56, that's where the first sutta is the Dhammacakka Sutta. The Dhammacakka Sutta is this long teaching said to be the first teaching of the Buddha. Although it's the first teaching, but it's not the oldest sutta in the canon, meaning that the monks compiled this later. That is understandable because you imagine the first few years, those monks are arahats and they all know the first sutta, first teaching very well, so no one really mentions it. They mention more of the difficult suttas. So what the later monks did were the new generation had never heard of the first sutta, so they kind of compile it into one systematic way. And you know that the style is such that it is later canon. No, it's within the Tripitaka, it's a bit later, that's all. And then comes other suttas, different aspects. For example, one sutta will say, okay, the Four Noble Truths is taught by the Buddha, only the Buddha. And another sutta says, okay, Four Noble Truths is known by all the Buddhas. Another one talks about what is ignorance. Ignorance is ignorance of the Four Noble Truths. What is knowledge? Knowledge is breaking through into the Four Noble Truths. And so you begin to get different parts of it after that. So you begin to have a better understanding, more comprehensive understanding of this teaching. And as modern scholars, we have a better overview of all the texts. So what we do is we write commentaries, new commentaries. We show how all these short teachings can be expanded for us to understand better in our modern context. And so you find this volume 53b has got all these interesting new combinations of teachings. Today's sutta, the Book of Eights, Attaka Alang Sutta, the translation of Attaka Alang Sutta is the eighth discourse on the sufficiently capable, A862. The qualities of a Dharma worker. So we have 8 kinds of people, and there are different qualities. You can see on page 74, there's a diagram. I've summarized everything there. So you can see on the top line, far right, you have 1, 2, 3 unto 8. And then second line, individual types, I've numbered them. These are typologies, SO1, SO2, S1. Actually, I've rearranged it with S1, S2, O1, O2, O3. Kind of, it's easier. But anyway, this diagram also helps at the moment. So S means self, O is other, all right? So in other words, they are good for themselves. So the other means they can teach others, right? So SO means self and others. So this person is capable of both qualities. Of course, 1 means first kind, 2 second kind. And then on the left-hand side, 1 to 6, you have the desirable qualities. Okay? 1 is quick in comprehending Dharma. Number 2, remembers what he has heard. Number 3, investigates the meaning of what he has heard. Okay, the first one, the keyword is comprehending. Number 2, remembers. Keyword is remembers. And number 3, keyword is investigate. All right, or if you like, meaning also can. And then the fourth quality, masters letter and spirit, and keeps proper practice. So the keyword is practice. Number 4. And then 5, he has a good voice. Okay, it is very interesting. He has a good voice with an ability for clarifying meaning. So he's a good speaker, a good voice, and also command of public speaking. And number 6, instruct, inspires, rouses, and gladdens others. This is a well-known phrase. Whenever you teach, these are the 1, 2, 3, 4 qualities that you try to show. First, you teach. That means you give the facts. Then you inspire people. You move them, and then rouse. You kind of get them to do it, practice it. And you make them feel happy. It's very important, gladdens. So these are the 6 qualities combined with 8 people. So you get 48 possible arrangements, more or less. But here we deal only with 8. All right. So that's the background. There's quite a lot of introduction notes there for you to study on your own. Let's look at the translation itself. Starting on page 80. Ataka Alang Sutta, the 8th discourse on the sufficiently capable, originating at Savatthi. Okay, so this is Anguttara Sutta. You find there's no Ewang Me Sutang, we just say where the Buddha was residing. Okay, so now here there are convenient subheaders, so you know what kind of typology or what kind of person these people are. The first one, sufficiently capable for both self-good and other good. So this is SO1. One means first kind, as self or others. Now the Buddha tells us, Bhikshus, accomplished in these 6 qualities, a monk is sufficiently capable for the good of self and sufficiently capable for the good of others. Okay, so the word sufficiently good, alang. Okay, it's enough. Cukup in Malay we say. It's enough for him to do this task. What are the 6? Okay, and here Bhikshus among is quick in comprehending the wholesome states. Notice that it doesn't say sutta, it says wholesome states. He understands what are the positive states of mind, what are the important qualities we have to cultivate. Right? Basically, it is calm and clarity. Okay, and then you have the 4 Brahma Viharas: loving kindness, compassion, gladness, and equanimity, and so on. He's able to, in other words, bring his mind to attain a calm, wonderful state. So when he gives a Dharma talk, he's happy. It's very important that you are happy, you're inspired when you give a Dharma talk. When we give a Dharma talk, it's a very big responsibility. You are dealing with people's emotions. We do not know what kind of people are in the audience. Sometimes they come because they have a very big question in life, or they come seeking some truths. Some of them, they feel like giving up the religion. They say, okay, today is the last day I'm going to listen, and this talk is going to decide what I'm going to do next. And you have all kinds of possibilities, because this is the thing about religion. If it's properly used, you can really help people. On the other hand, if you misuse religion again, you can do a lot of damage. I foresee that there will come a time we're heading towards a direction when you see, imagine this person is very good in psychology, he's very well trained in literature, he's good public speaker, and he's a very spiritual person. And ideally, we have a group of people who are like that, not just monks and nuns, but anyone. If you are you're an elder in a family, in other words, if you're a parent, it's your duty to be able to master the simple qualities. If you can read English, you should be able to read the suttas. You should know some psychology, read some literature, and you take turns to stand before the community and speak Dharma, so people listen to you, and they know you, and they listen to you, and they follow you. You have something good to tell them, and because of what you say, you are also inspired to practice and be good yourself. This is a very wonderful thing, where we do not put the monks and nuns on a pedestal, and the monks don't have to perform like circus bears to attract, clients and audience. It's a duty of everyone to study, practice, and realize the Dharma, in other words. So this sutta gives those qualities that we need to have. All right. So although the sutta is addressed to monks, as we know very well, according to Buddhaghosa, also monk here refers to anyone who's listening. If it's a meditation sutta, monk here refers to a meditator. It's not merely for monks. Anyone who says, "Oh, sutta is only for monks," that's not correct, because you find even when the Buddha is talking to lay people, sometimes he addresses the monks because the monks are present. He wants the monks to remember the teachings. This is the best way to make sure the teaching is preserved. Recently, the Lim family patriarch died. The Lim family that invited us to come to Singapore. So they have this public chanting, and this public chanting is really wonderful because they have this group which does the proper Theravada teaching with the minimum of superstition and cultural baggage. Of course, there are still things that could be improved. For example, instead of putting Amitabha's picture, you can put Sakyamuni's picture there, the proper picture of Sakyamuni. But I discovered some of the things they said there were not correct. For example, the leader towards the end said, dedication of marriage, it says, we dedicate marriage to the Yamadevas of the heavens and the underworld. I said, wow, I never heard of that one. There are Yamadevas, all right, they are in the jhana world, but then you have King Yama in hell, but they're different, you see. And so I thought there are other issues I need to bring up. So I told myself, I have a choice. If I were to speak alone to the leader, he may forget what I have to say, and those things I'm going to say are very important. And I really have a chance to speak to all these people. So by a very interesting coincidence or coming together of conditions, I was given the microphone. So would you like to speak to the microphone? I said, yeah, why not? Okay. So my understanding was that this is so important. I want to tell all those people present, because many of them belong to the chanting group. So I told them, I said, okay, this is what needs to be corrected, and this is how you should provide your service. The idea of doing this is to make sure that what is said is not forgotten. So if one person forgets, there are others who would remember. So there is this public witness here. People remember, and this is very important. I notice sometimes when you confide in someone alone, it's up to this person whether he wants to do it alone or he wants to do it or not, and usually he forgets about it. That's the end of it. So this is where you can say it's a common responsibility of the Buddhists as a community to preserve the teachings and to preserve it correctly, beautifully, and kind of to send it ahead to make sure it reaches the next generation and the next. So this kind of teachings tell us just that. So this first person is the ideal teacher. Okay, he is the kind of person who will be a very good teacher. Of course, if you can train to be such a person, that'd be really good. This is SO1. Okay, so you want the details, you can see SO1 is in section 421. All right, we can read that later. And then now the last part, there's a bit of detail here. Section. Have I read to you all the 6 yet?
No.
Okay.
Just read
Number 1. All right. So I was explaining 1. Number 2, he remembers teachings that he has heard. Of course, those days you hear the Dharma and you remember them. Nowadays you read them, so you have to make notes and so on. And of course, there are also talks. So remembering is very important here. Okay, so you've got to make notes. That's why you have to have proper naming system of suttas. You have to have good translations. Number 3, he investigates the meaning of the teaching that he has heard. Here you have to ask yourself, what does this mean? And the Pali Suttas are very contextual. In other words, you cannot say this one word means only one sense, not necessarily so. All right? Of course, usually like the word karma, we know karma means like a kind of intentional action. See? But then there are different aspects of karma. So even the words like mano citta vijnana, notorious 3 words, they often appear together, and the three means the same thing. It refers to the mind. But under certain circumstances, in certain contexts, certain suttas, citta means mind, the mind that does before we do an action, right? And then you have the word mano refers to our attention, where we direct the mind. So you see, in that context, the 2 words have different functions. So we have to be aware of this kind of situations. We have to be careful not to be dogmatic. Dogmatic means we only have one idea. This means only one thing. And say, these words all mean the same thing. So this is quite a risky kind of attitude. So remember, context. In the Pali Suttas, the terms and the teachings are always contextual. And look at the context. What is the Buddha saying here? What is the teaching telling us in this context? So investigating the meaning here also means to look at the context. Number 4, having mastered the Dharma and its meaning, the letter and the spirit of the teaching, he practices the Dharma in keeping with the Dharma. So here again, this is almost with legalistic clarity. Practice the Dharma in accordance with the Dharma. Dharma no Dharma. You don't learn the Dharma and say, oh, I choose to practice this way. Then it becomes a private practice. It's not Dharma practice. So practicing means you internalize it. You begin to look around and you see Dharma everywhere. Okay? So the Dharma is everywhere. If you can see that, then you are kind of very Dharma-minded. There are many religious symbols all around. Yeah, they have their own meanings. People give them human meanings. Where you see a flower, you say, oh, it's impermanence, and then you see running water. So many things you can reflect on running water. It purifies us, it's the precepts. You get a nice breeze, say, wow, this breeze is really beautiful. And then maybe you get wafts of nice fragrance from the flowers. Then you reflect, say, wow, the fragrance of moral virtue goes against the wind. So if you're good, people know you everywhere. And then you find there are other religious symbols. So you see the cross. When you see a cross, as a Buddhist, you say, oh, that's the Four Noble Truths, because there are 4 legs there. And so on. And then you see the sailor's wheel, you say, oh, that's the Eightfold Path, and so on. So symbols are what we make of it. So we are Buddhists, we see it in the Buddhist way. Right? So, and you see everything as impermanent. So that's the way you practice. In keeping with the Dharma. Now, number 5, he is endowed with a pleasant voice. Because here you can train your voice. Some people have very good voices. The Buddha has a wonderful voice. So you have a good voice, use it for Dharma, right? Some people may love your voice, they just come to listen to you because of your voice. So whatever you say goes right into the hearts and minds of these people. That's really wonderful, you can do that. Now, even if you have a voice which is sleepy, it's good too, because then people who have problems sleeping will come to you and you just say something and they fall asleep. That's a blessing for them too. So there is a use for everything in the Dharma. So you got to see what are your blessings or what are you good at and use it. Okay? So here in this case, a pleasant voice. Pleasant voice doesn't merely mean you have a sonorous voice, kind of like a radio announcer's voice. If you have metta, you have this happy feeling in your mind. The way you speak is also kind of like, it is not too loud and yet audible. Of course, nowadays you have PA systems, so it's kind of easy to listen. And it's almost like talking to someone personally, almost like sharing a secret. And there are times you have to modulate your voice, you have to raise your voice a bit to stress a point. And your facial expression also important. What you say is reflected in your face, happiness, sadness, and so on. So this is under number 5, okay? And then the notice 5, it's got a list of things there. He is endowed with a pleasant voice, articulate in enunciation, very clear pronunciation. So you have to take your time, you have to practice pronouncing. Urbane or polish in speech, you use good language, polite language. You don't tell body jokes, that's one thing for sure during a Dharma talk. Okay? Clear voice, free from hoarseness, and one who clarifies meanings, right? So you make sure the audience know what you're talking about. And then number 6, he is one who instructs, inspires, rouses, and gladdens his fellow brahmacharis. Because here it's talking about the monks community, but you can also apply this generally. So you instruct means you teach the Dharma. You don't talk about football or something else, unless that football you're talking to a team of football players, or you're going to bring something interesting, and then lead from the world, you lead to the Dharma. And then you inspire them, and then arouses to kind of make them want to do it, want to meditate, want to keep the precepts, they want to aspire to stream winning. And then you make them feel happy, right, no matter what. Many of them come with all kinds of funny guilt feeling. Oh, I drink, how am I going to keep the precepts? Oh, I have a few wives, how can I practice the precepts? Or I've been stealing, how do I become a good Buddhist, right? So we explain to them about the past, to let go of the past, to change, and that there are many stories of so-called bad people, even mass murderers, public executioners, who benefited from the Dharma because they changed, even last minute. But the change was really drastic, really inspiring. So you gladden them, all right? So these are the 6 qualities. SO1. Now the second kind of Dharma teacher is SO2, is the second kind, and is also sufficiently capable for self and other good. Section 3. Bhikshus accomplished in these 5 qualities, a monk is sufficiently capable for the good of self and sufficiently capable for the good of others. What are the 5? Okay, here there are 5 qualities, all right? Only the first one is not there, okay? See, this sutta is very systematic. It lists everything, including the one which is not, okay? Here, bhikshus, a monk is not quick in comprehending the wholesome states. All right, so this person, the Dharma is not so good, theory that is, but he's good with the rest. He remembers teachings that he has heard. Right, so even though we may not be very, we don't read much and we don't understand much Dharma, but we remember the teaching. Right? At least we know some basic stuff. Right. But there are rules to follow. As I said, very important about context. And the rest are all the same, okay? So he investigates the meaning. And number 3, he practices meditation and so on. And number 4, he trains his voice, and when he talks in a pleasant way. And he instructs the Dhamma, not small talk and so on. So this is the second kind of person. He's got all the 5 qualities, only the first one is missing. Now you have the third kind of person who is capable of self-good but not other good. So, okay, the first part is the same. So let's look at the qualities. Section 6. Here, bhikshus, a monk is quick in comprehending the wholesome state. So his Dhamma theory is good. He remembers the teachings that he has heard, so his memory also is good. And then number 3, he investigates. He does research. It goes on comparing suttas and so on. And then having mastered the Dhamma, he practices it. Okay? So he meditates and so on. However, but he is not endowed with a pleasant voice. So he's not a good speaker. So he may not be able to, say, hold the attention of a crowd long, but then maybe he can teach small groups, or he's good in discussion, right? And then he's also not good in teaching. That's number 6. So he's very good in Dharma, basically, but he's not good in teaching, right? So for himself, he's okay. So in other words, he can be an example to others. You can ask him short questions and he might tell you where to look for the details. He might make a good sutta editor, for example. We need people in different areas, right? So this is the S1, right? Okay, next one is O1. This is very good with others. Section 4. Sufficiently capable for other good, but not self-good. So in other words, here he's enough to teach Dharma or practice, but he can still improve, right? Bhikshus, accomplished in these four qualities, a monk is sufficiently capable for the good of others but not for self. Okay, what are the four? Here, bhikshus, a monk is quick in comprehending the wholesome states. He remembers the teaching. All right, so he's good in teachings, no? But he does not investigate the meaning of the teaching. So maybe he's a little busy. He just reads or he just listens and remembers, that's all. And he is not one who he doesn't practice. Okay? So this is another thing. So he doesn't spend much time practicing, but he has a pleasant voice, and then he teaches others. So this kind of person, he is probably very popular. He might be a youth leader, maybe that kind of person. Okay, next one, number 5 is S2, the second kind of self person. Yeah, it's good for himself, for personal practice. So here, look at section 10. Here, bhikshus, a monk is not quick in comprehending the wholesome state, so he's not very good in Dharma theory. But he remembers teachings he has heard, so if he's taught, he's good in learning. And he investigates the meaning. Okay, so he has some scholarly ability, and having mastered, he practices. He practices the teaching, so to the extent it's good. But he doesn't have a pleasant voice, so he's not a good public speaker, and he does not teach. Okay, so he maybe in this case we might say he teaches meditation, or he could do other things like maybe counseling or other related work in the Buddhist group. So this is S2. Okay. Now the 6th kind of person, sufficiently capable for other good but not self-goods. So S2. Okay. Oh, this is O2, sorry. O2. All right, in this case, he only has 3 qualities. Look at 12. Here, a monk is quick in comprehending wholesome state. So his theory is good, Dharma theory, but he does not remember the teachings he has heard. So he kind of forgets them. And he does not, well, if you can't remember, you are not likely to investigate them. On the other hand, if you investigate, it also improves your memory, right? So they kind of go together. And it's not one who practices, right? So here, maybe he's kind of a very sociable person, but he has a pleasant voice and he instructs. You notice this is a normal kind of arrangement. So this will be a popular person, kind of a leader, youth leader maybe, or some kind of organizer. So this is the other kind of person, number 2, O2. Now you come to number 7. 7 is S3, sufficiently capable for self-good but not other group, the 3rd kind. Eh? Okay, this person has only 2 good qualities. So he is not quick in comprehending, he's a bit slow in understanding teachings, he does not remember teachings, but he investigates, he makes an effort to find out, and he practices. Okay, so these are wonderful qualities. So he doesn't have a good voice, he does not teach. Notice here, these 2 qualities are sufficient for personal practice. All right. So this kind of person, you can still approach him and ask him about his practice and learn something there. But he won't be a good leader, he won't be a good teacher. Now the last one, number 8, is O3, the 3rd kind of other person, other good person. So he has only 2 qualities also. So here, number 16, here bhikshus. So a monk is not quick in comprehending the Dharma, so he has difficulties there. He has difficulty remember teachings, because if you don't hear them, you won't remember them. And then he doesn't practice because he doesn't know these Dharmas. And then the good thing is he has a pleasant voice and he teaches. Okay, now here is a bit problematic, all right? He's not much of a Dharma there, but he does teach and he has a nice voice. So here, this is a typical leader, maybe a young person. So what's interesting here is the sutta still say he's sufficiently capable, but for other people. Now this is very interesting because if you are a Buddhist organizer, you say you are the president of a Buddhist society, you can use this kind of typology and you say, okay, what sort of people fall into which category, and then you can allocate them duties. In this last one, probably he'll be good in dealing with children, or kind of when there's a big gathering, you just welcome people. So they all have something to play here. So they're sufficiently capable in that sense. So there you are. These are the 8 kinds of people who have certain abilities that can either make them Dharma teachers or Dharma workers of some caliber. Okay, so the sutta ends there. All right? Remember the best person, the first one, it's got all the 6 qualities. So, okay, we have about 15 minutes, so let me open it up for any questions or discussion.
Brother Piya, Pacceka Buddha in training, where would he have fallen?
Do you say Pacceka Buddha in training?
Yeah, this is words I just created.
No, we don't.
Who's cultivating?
Okay, what you mean is Pacceka Buddha to be. Yeah, because there's no Pacceka Buddha in training. Unless he is a stream winner, it's possible. Because the word training means Sekha, but because there are no Buddhas around, what happens is, one scenario is this: he has been practicing under some past Buddhas, and he may have attained one of the earlier stages. Okay, at least Trimina maybe. Okay, otherwise it's difficult for him, So he dies, and then possibly he awakens next life. He's an arhat. That's possible. That means his karma is very strong. Okay, usually he would be an arhat to be in a previous life, or maybe a non-returner in the pure abodes. Then he dies. But I think pure abodes, again, he wouldn't be reborn on earth. But that part I'm not so sure whether Pacceka Buddhas can come from pure abodes or not. But if I were to follow the teaching as it is, it's unlikely. He would appear on earth. So in other words, it is likely that he would attain the path and then last life becomes awakened by himself, like Devadatta, But at that time, maybe the lifespan of human beings are too long, beyond 80,000 years, beyond 100,000 years, or too short, below 10 years. So if it's too short, people won't have the time to listen. If it is too long, they won't listen because life is so long. So they are basically by themselves. But actually, from the stories, they do teach. It's just that they don't teach en masse, that they don't give public teachings. You go to them, ask for blessings, for teachings, and they do that, yes. So, and they just kind of go on meditating until they collect alms, then they pass away and they're not reborn anymore, okay? Anything else?
So this Pacceka Buddha to be would have come under S1.
This typology is more for people like us. Pacceka Buddha probably will. It's hard to categorize here because probably his Dharma is good. He may or may not have good voice. So he doesn't teach, so we can't really categorize him properly here, because this categorization is more for lay people, for monks in our lifetime in this world. This is not a typology for saints, and this is more a functional typology. Okay. I mean, if you look at 1 to 6, all those qualities, these are more like worldly qualities. Not all of them, but many of the worldly qualities, more for teaching the Dharma. It's not that the Paceka Buddha cannot teach. I mean, they may actually have a good voice, they may have even good Dharma. It's just that people are not ready to listen, or not willing to listen because of the situation. No, diagram, page 74, there's a diagram there. I've revised this diagram slightly. What I've done is I have switched column 4 and 5 around. Okay. Once you switch column 4 and 5 around, you see all those pass marks are easier on the eye. 4 and 5. I'll just switch it around. If you want the new notes, you just email me, I'll send it to you. Well, the good news is we've managed to get back all our website, we've put it back. Only thing is those old links, those floating links, I think they are still not connected, I think. So if you see some old link somewhere, sutta name, and then you click it, it just say there's no link there. So you got to go directly to the website. But I think the later postings, if you post a sutta online, that link will connect. For some reason, the old ones do not connect. I'm not a technician here, so I don't know how to explain this. No? Any other questions or feedback? For a few minutes more. Now on page 74, you have a summary of 4 types of learners. Now, this is also quite useful. This also is from the Anguttara, Book of Force, and also the commentaries. The first kind of person is called the intuitive learner, Ugatitanyo. Okay, this person is a quick learner, okay? So, page 74. Section 3, 4 kinds of learners. This is very well known. So this first kind of person, intuitive learner, so he's a quick learner. He just hears once or just a brief teaching is able to understand. A kind of genius, one who fully understands from only a brief instruction. Then the second kind is a diffuse learner, Vipanchitanyu, an intellectual who understands after some detailed explanation. Okay, so I think most of us are in this category. We need kind of explanation, but occasionally we are very quick in learning. So although this is a typology, it also can mean a tendency. Sometimes we are number 1, sometimes we are number 2. Number 3 is a tractable learner, Neya. Neya means someone who should be led. He has to be guided. One who needs some guidance, who is capable of being trained. So I think most of those who attend talks will come under this category. And then the last one is the rote learner, R-O-T-E, rote, okay? Padaparama. Padaparama actually means word at best. No? One who only knows the teaching at the word or literal level. Okay, so he takes things literally, all right? And this one can be problematic. This is the faith kind of person, all right? This Facebook has kind of maintained a kind of standard where I tell people that I said, this is a place of learning. We treat it as a classroom, so there are basic rules of respect and so on. Then we can really learn Dharma properly. And of course, it's good to have some skills in presenting the Dharma. We have people who write big chunks of notes, and it's very hard. You don't feel like reading it anymore because it's so long. Imagine one paragraph without any, one big chunk without any paragraphing. So it's hard to read and difficult to remember. One of the things I learned when I was in school, in secondary school, my teacher would say, paragraph your essays and one idea per paragraph. So it's important to paragraph when you write Dhamma, maybe not more than 5 to 10 lines per paragraph, and then one paragraph, one idea, people are more likely to read. And you'll also notice in my reflections I give some subheadings after every 2 or 3 paragraphs. So all this help. Then the next problem is sometimes people assume they know. Okay, so for example, someone knows the terms citta, mano, vijnana, and he kind of likes the wrong thing and say, okay, this means the same thing. But then again, it is a good beginning, but we need to go deeper and understand contextual usage of terms. And this kind of attitude kind of it interests me because I'm asking myself, what kind of mind is behind this? So this person who likes to talk all these terms, obviously he has great faith in the Dharma. So the idea is how to inspire him to refine that attitude so that he's able to master the Dhamma in a more beautiful way. So in the case of the one who wrote a big chunk, I told him, I said, wow, you have a very rich mind, and these ideas just flow out like that, one big lump, you know. I said, but if you are able, and you have a wealth of understanding, but I think it's wise to dispense your wealth in paragraphs. Okay, I mean, if you do that, it's easier for people to kind of understand it. Something like that. I mean, kind of present in, very nice sections, flow, and so on. Because what we want people to remember. Of course, you've got to present something worth remembering. And always verify your facts. Quote your sources. Okay? Be sure where it comes from. And when you mention important terms, keywords, big words, be ready to answer questions. People are going to ask you, what does this mean? Okay? So very often, whenever these people put in big words, I will just ask them, what does this mean? And so on. And suddenly there is silence. Then I say, it's okay, you please go back, find out what it means, and then let me know. I have gone through this myself, because when I give talks and I say something, wow, all these big words, nobody asks what does it mean. It's embarrassing if you can't explain it, And then you only know it on the word level. Okay, that's the last one. Okay, actually, last one means not very bright, you see. And Chula Pataka, by the way, although we say not very bright, there are different sayings for all this. For example, this last one is Chula Pantaka. Chula Pantaka, because of his past karma, he kind of looked down on other monks and kind of saying terrible things about them. He was a very clever man. So in his last life, he was not very bright. He couldn't even remember one verse, So his brother Mahapantaka told him, say, well, you better give up the rope, go back to lay life. Because if you can't chant, nobody is going to give you dharma. You can't even chant something in blessing. So he was very sad, he was dismayed, he was thinking of leaving the order. And the Buddha will take no such, resignation. So Buddha went up to him and taught him the famous meditation of putting a cloth on his hand, and then he just rubbed like that, over this clean white cloth, and it says Rajo Haranang, Rajo Haranang, looking at it intently and rubbing it. So he's focusing on this movement of meditation. Now, as he was doing this, saying Rajo Haranang, that means taking away dirt or cleaning, if you like, or dusting. This cloth became smudged, became dirty. So you imagine he's looking at it, and it became dirty, and then he says, then the thought arose in him, this is impermanent, Of course, it's much more than that. The story, the Dhammapada story, when he reflected in this way so intently that apparently he went to jhana and he became an arahat, just like that. So this is with the guidance of the Buddha, of course. So he was awakened, but nobody knew it. So he was sitting meditating, and then the monks were going for lunch, so they needed another monk. So the Buddha asked, do you know there's any other monk here? And the other monk said, well, there's only one, but he's not ready. He's not even, he can't chant, That's Chulapantaka. The Buddha said, go and get him. So this monk goes to Chulapantaka's quarter, and Chulapantaka, he has quite a sense of humor, although it's an arahat. Remember, some arahats do have sense of humor, because they have this laughing wisdom. They're happy, all right? Sometimes the Mahayana who kind of, talk bad about the arahats, but they're quite happy and wonderful people. So when this monk came to invite Chulapantaka, he saw like 1,000 of all Chulapantakas all around sitting there. So he's not sure which one to invite because they're all the same, So he goes back to the Buddha and says, so many of them, they're all the same, Then the Buddha said, don't worry, just go there, grab the head of the first one, that will be the one. So the man goes back and grabs the head of the first one, and zap, everyone became one again. It's really a beautiful story. And then the monk says, well, the Buddha invites you, for dana. So this is a story of this monk who's very slow, but then he became an arahat. So it's a matter of how determined and doing the right practice. Okay, so those are the 4 kinds of people. Yes?
One of the analytic insights is ready wait.
What page is that?
Ready wait, according to this text, is...
page, please.
It's 61 explains. Ready wait means to instruct, inspire, rouse, and gladden others. Now, anyway, when we talk about wit, normally we think of humor.
Yes.
In the modern context.
Yes.
And of course, Ajahn Brahm is quite famous for humor in his Dharma talks and all that. There's a lot of funny stories. So what I want to ask you is there any mention in the suttas anywhere that Buddha considered humor as one of the things that may help propagate the Dharma?
Not, the word is not used as today, but you actually see it in action. The Buddha often uses humor. His humor is very subtle, sometimes wry. In other words, it's not ribald, it's not bawdy, it's not violent. What do you call that? It's not vulgar, you see. So he wouldn't talk like the monks who make the crowds laugh. No, I wouldn't say Buddha would do that, because the Buddha never smirks. You don't see all his teeth when he smiles. You just see the tip of his teeth, according to what we say. In other words, you do see a very happy figure in the eyes and so on. There's always this calmness about him. And he will tell you something funny, and you listen, you will know it. So he will kind of address your intelligence. In other words, people may laugh, of course, But the interesting thing in the suttas, I notice whenever the Dharma talk is given, the idea is to get the people into this calm state, into meditation. Maybe that's why they do not encourage the group breaking to laughter. And you see the same situation in retreat centers. You don't hear people laughing loud, because that will distract their meditation. So it depends on the environment. Of course, in a temple situation, in the public speaking, I suppose it's all right, because you want people to be happy. So you tell them some stories and then inspire them so that they go back remembering all these things. So the context is very important. So yes, I would say the monk is allowed to teach humor. And there is a paper I'm supposed to write on humor in the suttas. I've not come to that chapter yet. So I suppose it's a very interesting paper. So I would say yes, in action, but the word is not used, it's not regarded as a great thing in terms of teaching, but wit means you're able to answer in such a way that it is catchy, especially pun. For example, someone challenges the Buddha and says, when are you violent? When can you kill? So what can you kill? So the Buddha says, oh, okay, you kill anger. So he brings a level of understanding from the worldly level to the spiritual level. Same word, but it is linked to a higher level. So that's one example. And then you have a whole sutta called the Aganya Sutta, where you have this humor applied to the whole story of the re-evolution of the whole universe, which is told in quite a humorous tone. Okay, so we do have a sutta which is humorous in that sense.
So throughout the suttas, we have not come across such a thing called a laughing Buddha.
No. This is a Chinese invention to bring Buddhism down to the level of the common people. And they keep on converting the Buddha. First, they say, okay, let's have a jolly, big-bellied Buddha. And then, next, let's have him carrying a big sack so you can wish for anything. And I say, but the Song Dynasty was really inventive and innovative. They say, since you have this big bag, why don't you put children around him? So, very, very different from the Indian Buddha. Yeah. So you can say there's a Chinese religion already. Yeah. It's Chinese art even. So, and then the Japanese, they invented their own Kashtigaba. Their Kashtigaba became very popular pathway, roadside deities. So you have rows of Kashtigaba. And this Kashtigaba specializes in abortion. Or childbirth, death in childbirth. So these mothers, in their sadness, they will go to this little statue and put clothes on it and so on. So it's a kind of religious device, if you like. So it makes them feel somehow, safe and happy. The kind of idea that, so they transfer all their sorrows onto this image. So this, interestingly, Kashtigaba plays a different role here. So you begin to see changes here in terms of living religions. Yeah. Any other questions? This is what 615, eh? We have quite a few more interesting suttas coming, talking about how to teach Dharma. Eh? So, no questions, we end here. It's always a wonderful feeling we get when we're able to just sit quietly, listen to the Dharma, or even give Dharma teachings. It shows that we have this wonderful culture that is living, a culture of inner peace and inner clarity. And also, if we are able to teach this kind of Dhamma widely and effectively, then you have a much better community out there. Our society is so young and we are facing lots of teething difficulty, how we treat people, how we treat wealth, how we regard happiness. All these are very important for our mental health. And Dharma helps us tremendously in cultivating good mental health, inner calm and inner clarity. Reflecting in this way is very good karma, by the power of the three jewels and all these good things we have done. May we be empowered with wisdom and the courage to aspire to at least stream winning in this life. And by the virtue of the three jewels too, may we be well and happy. Our family and loved ones to be well and happy. May they all see the Dharma in this life too. May those who are practicing the Dharma, teaching the Dharma, see the true teaching also in this life too. And those who are lost and those who have difficulties with the Dharma, may they too see the true teaching and see the path in this very life. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.